Hello, and welcome to this on-demand webinar, Set Up Capacity Planner the Right Way. If you're a Jira administrator or someone in charge of installing and configuring the apps in your organization, this webinar is for you. Here's the agenda for this session. We'll start by answering the question, what is Capacity Planner? And we'll look at the two basic scenarios that organizations use with Capacity Planner. Then we'll move into why you're here and give an overview of the features that need to be set up for Capacity Planner to really work for your organization. The main event is a walkthrough demo on how to set up each of these features in Capacity Planner. We'll finish off the webinar by talking about how Capacity Planner integrates with other Tempo apps. But first, here are some quick housekeeping items before we get started. Since this is an on-demand webinar, feel free to skip ahead to specific sections that interest you or that you want to learn about. If you have any questions while you are watching, you can reach out to our team in the corresponding link on this page. At the end of this on-demand webinar, we'll provide you with some next steps to keep you going on your learning journey. So what is Capacity Planner? It's a flexible and scalable planning, scheduling, and reporting tool for Jira that enables organizations to optimize resource and team capacity in less time and with more accuracy. Capacity Planner helps you move from guesswork to clarity. It gives team leads and resource or project managers a flexible, visual way to plan work and see where there's availability or overload. Whether it's work for the upcoming sprint or for a big project slated to start months down the road, Capacity Planner helps organizations schedule the right resources at the right times. And how do organizations use Capacity Planner? As an administrator, you might not be using Capacity Planner for planning, but it's important that you understand how your organization is using it. Resource planning is a common workflow to optimize capacity for upcoming projects. Managers need to find the right skills at the right time, and even fill in staffing gaps with generic resources. Capacity Planner also provides tools for team planning at both the team level and the team member level. Scrum teams can plan work automatically using existing Jira data, such as iteration cycles, story points, and boards. As we go on, you'll see how the features that you set up fit in with both of these scenarios. So, let's go through a quick overview of what you need to set up for Capacity Planner. First off, we'll cover how to give your employees access to Capacity Planner, then how to create workload and holiday schemes to determine employee capacity for work. We'll look at how creating internal issues lets employees plan activities, such as vacations and other PTO, or things like company events or travel. And you'll see how to enable approvals so that managers can approve vacations and PTO, or any planned work. An important item we'll cover is syncing Jira with Capacity Planner for automating the planning process, especially if you work in Agile. Tempo teams are core to Capacity Planner, and you'll see how to create teams across your organization, as well as roles and skills that can be assigned to team members. Finally, we'll show you how to add the Tempo Team Custom field to Jira screens to make it possible to automate team planning. Now we're going to give you a walkthrough of how to set up these key features in Capacity Planner so that your organization can use it effectively.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name's Edna, and I'm a learning expert here at Tempo. So I'm going to walk you through each of the items that you just saw. As a Jira administrator, you'll see how setting up these things will get Capacity Planner ready for your organization. So let's start out here in Jira. And to find Capacity Planner after you've installed it, just expand Apps on the sidebar and click Tempo. If you also have timesheets installed, it's going to show up first, but just click this icon up here and select Capacity Planner, and it opens up. So here we are on the team planning view. I've already got some team plans set up here, but this will be all empty if you're just starting out. And this is the resource planning view where you can do planning for individual resources. We have separate views for different workflows, but the two views do work well together. But as an administrator, what you want to do is go down to the settings here. And then go to the permissions overview. The first thing you should do is make sure that everyone who needs access to Capacity Planner has it. And this is done with a global permission. So I'm on the global page here, and I'll just click this global link, and that takes me to the Jira global permissions screen. And note that you can also get here from the Jira settings up here at the right. Just select System, and I'll just close that. And then Global Permissions on the sidebar. So when you install Capacity Planner, several of Tempo's own permissions are added to the Jira global permissions. And the one that you want right now is the Tempo Planner Access permission. By default, all Jira users on your instance are in this Jira Software Users group, so everyone has access to Capacity Planner by default. If that's what you need for your setup, then you are good to go here. But if you don't need everyone on your instance to have access to Capacity Planner, or maybe you've changed this user group's membership and have problems with employees getting access, this is the permission to check. So I'm going to grant this permission to another group. And to do that, I'll go down to the bottom here and select Tempo Planner Access Permission. And then I select my user group, which is called All Tempo Users. And this group includes team members and the team leads and project managers who are doing the planning. Click Add, and you see that the group is added here. Now I can even remove any other groups that don't need access to Capacity Planner, like the Jira Software Users group that gives everyone access. I'll just click Delete and then confirm that. So now the right people can use Capacity Planner. So while you're in the global permissions, it's a good idea to grant some other Tempo permissions to the correct employees. I'll go up to the Tempo Administrator permission here. This one's important because it lets these administrators configure Capacity Planner for your organization. And I've granted it to this group of admins. And also the Tempo Team Administrator permission lets the administrators create and configure Tempo teams that are used across your organization. And I've granted it to this group of team admins. Just to note that as a Jira administrator, you do have both of these permissions by default, but granting them to other people means that you have less work to do, which is always kind of great. So let's go back to the settings now. And I'll just collapse this bar. And this is where the Tempo administrators can get to work. First, I'll go down to Staff, and we'll look at the workload and holiday schemes. So these two schemes determine the capacity for each team member's time, which is very important when you're planning out work. So basically, the workload scheme minus the holiday scheme equals the capacity for each team member to work. So I'll start out with the workload schemes here. And just a quick note that if you also have timesheets installed, these schemes will probably already be set up since they're also used in timesheets. But if they're not, you do need to set them up for a Capacity Planner. So this is the Tempo default workload scheme, which shows you the employee's work week, which is 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday. All users are added to this scheme by default. So you can create other schemes if you need them. Just click up here, give it a name, and then add the number of hours per day. I've created one here for part-time workers who are only doing 4 hours per day. So it's important to add the members to the correct scheme, and they can only be assigned to one scheme at a time. And that scheme needs to have some hours. For example, you might have created a 0 hours workload scheme for certain timesheets users, but you can't create plans for them because their capacity can't be calculated if they have no hours. So that's just something to be aware of if you also use timesheets. So to add members to schemes, just click the members link here. And this opens up the Manage Staff page where you can see who's in the scheme. I'll just get rid of this filter. And now you can see all the users on your Tempo instance. And I'll just filter by the active users. You can see their Tempo team memberships, team roles, and which workload and holiday schemes they're in. Here's how you can easily move multiple staff at once from one workload scheme to another. So I'll just select a bunch of staff here, and then under Actions up here, I'll move to Workload Scheme, and then select which one that I want to move them to. As a side note, something that you might want to do is connect your organization's HR system to Tempo in order to share staff information, which would show up here. And you can do that with Tempo's API. Now let's go to the holiday schemes to see the public holiday schedule in each country. So if you have offices internationally, like I've got here, you'll need to create one for each location. So I've set up the Tokyo office as the default, and I'll click Configure to open it up. And here are the fixed days, and these are the ones that don't change every year. To add a new one, just click here, and then add the information. And here are the floating days, which are the ones that do change every year. So you'll have to update these every year. Again, just click up here and then add the information for each one. Now let's go back and again, make sure that the team members are assigned to their correct holiday schemes by clicking Members and then selecting them from the same Manage Staff page. And just a tip that holiday schemes are not meant for planning vacation days or personal time off. That should be done with internal issues, which I will show you next. And they're up here. So what are internal issues? They're basically Jira work items that Tempo categorizes as being special for events that are not really project related. For example, employees can use them to plan their company travel time, learning time, vacation, medical leave, or you can also use them for company meetings or special events, that kind of thing. Again, if you have timesheets installed, these will probably already be set up since timesheets uses them for logging time. So these work items can be in multiple Jira projects if you like, but it's best practice to create a single Jira project for them, like I have up here, and that just makes it easier to manage them. And to configure them as internal to Tempo, you need to search for a work item here. And I want to add this one for biking day. And then click Add. And you see it's added to the list here. So now all of these issues are available on a special internal tab that employees will see when they're planning their time. So now let's go to these options here, which are only for Capacity Planner. And let's start with the planning time options. So first off, if you want to incorporate a review and approval process for plans, you need to turn on this switch called Enable Plan Approval. And this makes it possible to select a reviewer for plans, such as for managers or team leads to verify time off for their team members. But it can also be for any type of plan. You can also check this box to be able to set specific times of the day when the plans will take place. And this can help users organize their workday. So this matters only if you're also using timesheets, which is where you'll notice these plan times in MyWorks calendar view, which is like an agenda of your week. So when this option is off, all the plans start at midnight of the day. So another handy option to check is the delete plans when associated issues are deleted, which does as advertised. When Jira work items are deleted, their related plans are also deleted. And this definitely helps project managers and team leads keep the planning board clean and up to date. Next, we'll look at an important feature for Capacity Planner, and that's how it does a two-way sync between Jira and both individual team member plans and team plans. So this means that changes in one are automatically reflected in the other, which is obviously a great thing when you're planning and you want to keep up with changes in real time. So to start off, just click Configure here, and you see that you can set the sync options separately for individual plans and team plans. So let's start with the team plans. So these plans are automatically synced using the Tempo Team field as the assignee, and I'll show you what that field is in a little bit. So you can't change this field because it's required by Tempo to create team plans. But you do need to specify which Jira fields you're going to use for syncing the team plans. These should match how the Jira projects are set up in your organization. And one tip here is that we recommend using the original estimate field for the total plan time instead of the remaining estimate, since that value can change frequently. So when all these fields are filled out for a Jira Epic or higher level, a team plan is automatically displayed for it in the team planning view, which you saw earlier. And this makes planning very quick and easy. You can also choose to sync plans for individual team members. It doesn't mean that every plan has to be synced, but when you turn on this option, you make it possible for everyone using Capacity Planner to sync plans with the Jira work items if they want to. So again, you need to specify which Jira fields you're going to use in the same way that you did for team plans. And notice that the assignee is the only option for that field. So now, when all these fields are filled out in Jira work items, the plans for the assignee, who's the team member, are automatically created, which is pretty great. If you're working in an agile environment, it's good to check the story points and or the iteration cycle options as fallbacks to use if all the fields that you set here don't match or they're not filled out in the Jira work items. For example, if the start date or end date is not filled out in a work item, the iteration cycle, such as a sprint cycle, will be used so that the plans can still be automatically created. So that's a pretty useful fallback to have. And the same thing for story points. So if the original estimate field isn't filled out, the story points will be used for the total plan time, and a plan can still be automatically created. So just a note that syncing individual plans with Jira must be on to be able to use the iteration cycles and story points. So let's look at where iteration cycles and story points are set up. So I'll go down here and open up iteration cycles. And this is where you can use the default iteration cycles called sprint and even edit it to make it whatever you want. Or you can create your own custom iteration cycles to match what your teams are using in Jira. And then later, each Tempo team can choose which iteration cycle they want to use, and I'll show you where to do that in just a minute. And with story points, I'll click that here, it's the same idea. So you can use the default story point scheme here and even edit it as you want. And this is a typical configuration that's often used. Or you can create your own story point schemes to match what your teams are using in Jira. And like iteration cycles, each Tempo team can choose which story point scheme they want to use. So in the team planning webinar, we'll explore how team leads can use the iteration cycles and story points to do their planning for their teams. These are just the settings that help make all of that planning happen. And speaking of teams, let's move our attention to Tempo teams. I'll open the Teams page here, just click this icon, and these are all the teams in my Tempo instance. So if you're a Tempo team administrator, this is where you get to do some work. You can create teams for each department in your organization, and this is often done by somebody in human resources or the people team who has access to all the staff data and org charts. But you can also create Tempo teams for certain projects or initiatives, such as an agile team that maybe cuts across several departments. So just click Create Team up here and give it a name. I'll just put Demo. And select a team lead. And select a program if you have them. They're pretty easy to create too. This is just a team of teams. For example, you could group all your consulting teams together, or all of your dev teams. Just add a team summary if you like. And if this team will not be doing team planning, you can check the administrative option here. If they will be, or if you're not sure, just leave this off. And then click Create, and the team is added to the list. And here's a team that I've already created for an upcoming project, and the team lead has added these team members since they know who should be on the team. And note that this team also has some generic resources. And these are basically employee placeholders, not actual Jira users. And they can help you plan ahead, even when you have staffing gaps. So each member can be assigned a team role and also skills. As an administrator, you can actually create these roles or skills for your whole Tempo instance. And let's see how to do that. Let's go down to Settings, and then to Staff, and I'll open up roles here. As you see, I've already created quite a bunch of them, but you can create new ones up here at the right. It's very easy. And I'll go to Skills. There's a bunch already created here, but you can add new ones very easily, as you see. Once these roles and skills are created, they're available for everyone in your organization to use to assign to the team members. So let's get back to the teams and open another team here. And I'll show you where you can link your team to the Agile options that we looked at earlier. So this is the iteration source that you can select, iteration cycles or Jira boards. I'll select the cycles and then select the one I want to use for this team. Or the source can be Jira boards, and then select the team's board that you want to use. And this is from the project that the team is linked to. If you're using story points to calculate plan time, you can select the story point scheme that you want. For example, one way of working is to select a Jira board as your iteration source, and then use story points. And this lets you really take advantage of automation for planning, since the sprints are already defined in the board. So what's really important for a capacity planner are the team permissions, which I'll open up here. And these are all called permission roles. And by default, every team has the team lead and member roles here. The team lead has all of these permissions. These ones up here are for timesheets, and these ones are for capacity planner. So the team leads are allowed to view, manage, and approve plans for everyone who's in their team, and also to manage the team. Team members don't have any permissions by default, but here I've given them the View Plans permission just so that they can view the plans of their fellow team members. But you can create more permission roles for this team, like the backup team lead role here. But you can also create, and this is what's really powerful, is that you can create permission roles that cover all or multiple teams across the organization. And those are actually the grayed out ones here. I can't edit these roles here, so I have to go to Settings and then to Permission Roles. And here they all are, what are called full access permission roles. For example, a resource manager or project manager usually needs to view the plans for all teams or multiple teams across an organization. So instead of going into each team to create these, which can be pretty tedious, you can create them here in one spot. So I'll click Add Permission Role and then give it a name. I'll just call it Demo Manager for this webinar. And I want them to be able to view plans and manage plans, which lets them create plans for team members. I'll add users and enter Catherine, and then close this. If you select Restricted, you can set the teams that you want for this role. So just select these certain teams. Or if I click Full, this means I want this role to affect all teams in the organization, all resources. So I'll create that, and now I see it here. So these permission roles are very powerful and very useful to apply specific permissions for specific people across multiple teams or all teams in your organization. So one more thing that you need to do for Tempo teams as a Jira administrator is to add the Tempo team custom field to Jira work item screens. And to do that, I'll go to Jira settings and select work items, and then open the sidebar here and select fields. And then up on this page, I'll search for Tempo. And we have two fields here, account and Tempo team. And why does this field matter? It needs to be available in Jira work item screen so that the team leads can link their Tempo teams for planning in Capacity Planner. And remember that this is the field I mentioned when we were looking at the syncing with Jira options. So this field lets Tempo team plans be created automatically. So over here, I'll open this menu and select Add Field to Screen. This opens the work items page where you can check the boxes for all the Jira screens where you want to use the Tempo team field. This is my test instance, so I have a lot of them, but you probably won't have this many. So just remember to click Update if you change anything here. So now let me go to a project that uses one of these screens, and I'll open a work item here. And I see the Tempo team field here. So this is where I can select my team if it's linked to this Jira project. And the linking is something that the team lead needs to do for their Tempo team. So that's it for doing a pretty complete setup of Capacity Planner for your organization. You'll probably need to do some more tweaking here and there, but now you know where the settings are and why they matter. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Thanks for that demo of a complete setup. Now let's go over how Capacity Planner integrates with other Tempo apps. Tempo has a whole suite of apps that can work together to provide business solutions, such as flexible program management, customizable reporting, and comprehensive insights to manage programs and portfolios of any size and complexity. But let's get more specific about how Capacity Planner integrates with these apps. Timesheets is a time tracking and reporting tool, and it's a great partner with Capacity Planner. Once time is planned, it can easily be logged in timesheets, and then you can compare the planned versus actual time spent in a single report. This way, you can gain valuable insights into how planned work is executed. Using Capacity Planner with Financial Manager lets you forecast the financial health of your projects and portfolios. Planned time data is used in Financial Manager to forecast labor costs and revenue, which is an invaluable asset for businesses. Structure uses the planned time data from Capacity Planner as part of a project's management. Structure lets you visualize, track, and manage progress across your Jira projects and teams. And combined with Gantt charts for Structure, you can view the plans for resources on a timeline to schedule work directly in the chart, helping you manage resource allocation across your organization. Finally, with BI connectors, you can link Capacity Planner data to your organization's third-party apps, such as for reports on forecasting capacity and costs. If you'd like to continue your learning journey with Capacity Planner or any other Tempo products, be sure to check out more of our learning resources. So thank you for watching this on-demand webinar. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us and we will follow up with you soon. Thanks again and have a great day.